coffee today with Jim Fitzmorris. Thank you,
Kevin. How are you?
Doing good. Thank you so much for coming. I always love having you come by because Jim actually has the theater across the street. It's called the
Theater at St. Claude.
Theater at St. Claude, and it's right behind
the Always Lounge.
The Always Lounge. It's in the same building almost, huh? Is it? All right, cool.
Can I tell people about how it is I got started on this coffee and how this coffee ties into what I'm doing right now? I'm going to go right into this.
I had no idea. I didn't know that was actually a thing. So this is like your signature cup.
Yeah. So when the market opened up, one of the things that happened when we got down to the theater, when we moved in, is that one of the first things I ever look for is that I'm a coffee addict. So the first thing I look for is a good cup of coffee. And there's a lot of coffee shops around here. I mean, there's a lot of stuff all over the place. But I've been interested to see what was going on down here, and I came down here when I saw they had a coffee kiosk, and I liked the atmosphere of the place. And I got an iced coffee, and I just thought it was one of the best iced coffees I've ever had in my life.
Thank you.
So I kept coming back, not thinking about it, and we were working on my show, which is Be a New Orleanian, which we're going to talk about today, right?
Yes, yes.
And so I started doing my show, Be a New Orleanian, and one of the things that happened was you came, and you actually, if you remember correctly, you came and saw me read through it to test it out for different people.
You know, I was a little bit beside myself. Yeah, you invited me to like your little like pre-test thing, which I'm like, why is this guy's inviting me to this? Like, and I didn't know why you invited me to it until I heard the show.
Right.
When I heard the show, I'm like, wow, that dude knows.
Remember that room though? It was Paul Sanchez. It was a whole bunch of people from around town.
It was like all these people from around town, and it was me sitting in there, and I'm like, why am I in this room right now? But like you reading the show, which I'm just a huge fan of, and I'm like, okay, he knew I would like lose my mind about this show.
And the thing is too is the fact that it's like, you know, I mean, one of the great. The show, Be a New Orleanian, is 6 tips to being a better New Orleanian. So that either you are a New Orleanian and you just simply want to get the idea of if I'm on the same page as you are about what it takes to be a New Orleanian, or you just arrived in town and you're looking for a way to separate yourself from those who people get kind of aggravated with because they're not New Orleanians. And so I had this idea after Katrina to write this show about what it meant to be a New Orleanian, because before Katrina I was one of those hardline people where you had to go to school here and you had to do this thing here, you had to do that thing here, you had to, like a certain, you had to be able
to... By the way, where'd you go to high school?
Yeah, exactly, Jesuit.
Okay.
Jesuit High School. So, but you had to be
I think you're my first Blue Jay on the show.
There you go. We're everywhere now. We're spreading. So my idea was to have this piece, because after Katrina I was so moved by the people who had come from out of town to help rebuild and invest in the community.
It's huge.
I realized that all of this stuff about how many years you had to live here, so I kind of changed the rules in my head. I said, look, if you're here for more than 1 year and you're willing to get off the cross because New Orleans could sure use the wood, we're happy to have you aboard. So I came up with these 6 tips, and I thought to myself, I love coffee so much that, I said I'd rather have coffee than water when I go on stage. And I thought at the beginning about doing a couple of cliche things, but then I thought, the problem is if I put a Cafe Du Monde mug up there, I'm actually falling into a trap that I'd actually talked about in the show, which is don't live in New Orleans. New Orleans is not really a place; it's this invented construct where people in New Orleans work. They work for a living, but no one should live in New Orleans because you'll gradually go insane. The perpetual party will kill you. And I wanted to have a coffee on stage, and I wanted it to be local. So when I tasted yours, it was like, knock your lights out good. And if you remember, I was uncomfortable when you first came of having the sleeve on. I said, I don't want to make Kevin be associated with the show I don't be associated with. And if you remember, you said, please, after the show, you said, please, can you have the sleeve?
It was I didn't know, you came in and got coffee. I didn't know you were drinking the coffee on stage while you're giving this. And so here you are, and you do have your little Zatarans and stuff like up there on stage with you as well.
At the bottom, at the bottom.
But you're holding a cup of Coast Roast coffee, and I'm like, dude, I was like, you gotta be.
Remember how packed it was?
It was solid packed. And here you are, you're up on stage talking about being a New Orleanian with a cup of Coast Roast coffee. And I was, for me, like, you got to understand, for me, Coast Roast coffee, I'm way too close to that to see that as a thing. But actually, if you've seen one of my other episodes of the show with Hayes, he says in the episode, which I just like, it wasn't until I was cutting the episode later, I was like listening to it, he comes here for coffee every morning. It's like, because he grew up in the French Quarter, and this is what he remembers it used to be like back in the, and I'm just like, God, wow, you know, and so for you to pick up on that is just huge. And then, so the Be a New Orleanian show, but before, let's plug this real quick, because you're going to be doing it again
at Petit Theater on the 28th for the Katrina anniversary. We're going to do it over there at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Sunday. And
3 p.m. Sunday, K-Day, Katrina Day.
They've also just renovated
Theater.
the theater. They've changed the chairs there. So it's a much more comfortable space. It was always one of the best spaces in town, and now it's even better. And it's going to be the largest house I've ever performed the show for. So I'm like really, really excited.
If you haven't seen this show, you've got to go to K-Day, 3 p.m. You've got to go see this show. Because one of the things about this show that really touched me, Jim, is that when you talk about, you know, you really do, because there's this, what's a New Orleanian, what's a real New Orleanian, but you really lay it out, and you really bring a dimension to, you know, the Catholicism that's in this town that a lot of people like to gloss over.
Well, that's number 5. Remember, I mean, in the tips, yeah, exactly. One of the tips that I give everybody is you got to believe.
You got to believe.
You know, and part of that, of course, comes off the old Saints joke.
Sure,
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember when they first started winning back in '87? They had that great side of the thing that said, "I always believe." But the thing is, in order to be a New Orleanian, you don't have to be Catholic, and you don't have to even be Christian. But I think that being a dyed-in-the-wool rabid atheist in the city of New Orleans is an utter disaster. It's like, because, I mean, essentially everything you're celebrating has some sort of foundation in religious roots. Our music, our celebrations, the way we party, the way we don't party. How we divide up the year. Is there any city that has more public ceremony based on religion than the city of New Orleans in the United States? I mean, it's like if you enjoy New Orleans, then you have to acknowledge on some level you're enjoying the spiritual traditions of New Orleans.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It's an absolute blast.
And so you bring that in, and I did, you know, I hate to spoil the show, but in the last part of the show is when you bring it home, and I'm not spoiling anything, because I think putting this in.
Well, I bring it home is a good way of putting it.
You bring it home. You bring it home. What you say is, bring it home. Is that you take the whole thing like the prodigal son, which is the parable that Jesus told with the guy who goes out and parties, and then he comes back home and his dad welcomes him back home, and you say that we are the people that have been there all the time.
Yeah,
what would you do?
I mean, that's exactly
it's
it.
So
we won't give much more of it away, but the fact of the matter is that one of my great joys is the number of people who are very deeply Catholic who were very happy with the fact that they felt I got the exegesis right on it, that I actually explained what the story is really about. If you go back and read the story, it's so wonderful for New Orleanians is that you have to actually ask yourself who the story is being addressed to. That's all we'll kind of say about it.
Yeah.
But I think in a lot of ways it speaks to all of us. Who we are in that story as New Orleanians affects, I think, whether or not we're a New Orleanian. Because I think a New Orleanian welcomes people home.
Absolutely.
You know, and with no conditions either.
No conditions.
I mean, that's the thing.
You are welcome to come and enjoy the city at no conditions.
Yeah, there's a lot of southern towns. There are a lot of southern towns that will welcome everybody back home, but you're back home on their terms. And what New Orleans is basically saying, I said this early on in the show, is that you can be who you want to be down here with the only rules you have to let everybody else be. You know? I mean, I've always said the best way to make the measure of whether somebody's going to make it here is if they come down here and do their own thing, and they see other people doing their own thing, and they go, well, that's their thing. It's when people come down here and do their own thing and say, why do y'all do that around here? We need to change that. You look at them and you go, okay, good luck. Yeah. And then one of two things happen. A year later they're gone, or a year later they go, you know, I figured out why y'all do things that way.
It's the navigating potholes.
It's like, the navigating pothole thing. And what's a good point about potholes, too, because people say, you know, why don't you just fill these potholes in? They go, you think we haven't filled these potholes in? Have you been out to Lakeview? You think those roads haven't been paved? I mean, that's the thing we tell people is that the city's always getting pulled back under. Mm-hmm. The fact that we're still here is the achievement, not the fact that it's fixed. I mean, you know, so that's, I mean, one of the most interesting things about what the show kind of deals with. I'm not, look, the other thing is too, I'm not one of those people who says things are fine, they should be the way they've always been, and back off. it's not that. I mean, there's a lot of change that needs to happen and does happen. Some that shouldn't happen and does happen. Some that shouldn't happen and gets stopped from happening. But what we have to remember is that there's a reason why things have been the way they've been here for so long. And some of those reasons are not just because of backwardness or provincialism, but because they work and they help us function. As I say in the show elsewhere, remember, we're a city surrounded by 1,000 terrible things. I mean, basically, we're at the crumbling end of the United States.
Have you seen that? Like when you look at like the map of like what's actually terra firma ground, we're like an island out here. We're an island out here. It's scary.
It really is scary. I mean, basically, we're going to end up like the Dutch, where if we're smart, we're going to end up like the Dutch, where we're a series of locks, walls, and levees. And I think it's part of the reason why we drink so much coffee too. I think it keeps us on our toes. No, I really do. I think that we love. Another joke in the show with it. Think about what a New Orleanian is. Somebody had the idea of putting caffeine in root beer. There is no natural need for caffeine in root beer, but somebody said, got to put that in there. And I think it's because New Orleanians either want to drink to forget, or they want to drink coffee to keep themselves, hyper aware
of your surroundings.
Of your surroundings constantly. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, So yeah, I mean, the show.
The show's a brilliant work, Jim. It's a brilliant work, and I've seen it 3 times, and I hope I'm not in this like we're talking about it, and people are like, what the hell are they talking about? Like, because we both know the show.
We were talking about this earlier. Yeah, it's like you say you saw it 3 times, and I'm willing to bet. This is what I'm so excited about with the Petit show. I'm willing to bet that a lot of people who saw it more than once, like yourself, and a number of people, people would bring their friends. They go see it.
I brought my grandfather.
They'd bring 3 or 4 friends with them. Their grandfather, their parents would bring kids. I think the real joy of the show, beyond the material and beyond spending an hour with me, good luck with that. I think that it's a sense of community. That what you end up getting is the joy comes from sharing an experience with all of these people, which is why this whole Petit thing has got me so excited. The idea of having, close to 300 people raise their hand and swear themselves in.
That's brilliant.
It's a great joke.
Because I had to bring my grandfather, because he's turning 90 now, and so, grew up in
Didn't look a day over 89.
Day over 89.
Looked great, actually.
He grew up on Piety and everything, and grew up Louisa. Rented tons of places on Louisa. But anyway, he, I had to bring him to see the show because I'm like, look, you got to see what's going on in the city, because you bring the old and the new and you bring it all together.
It's amazing too because one of the great things about the show is that I feel like I know the city really, really well. But over the course of the show, I learned more and more about the city from the people that came and saw the show. We're quick to there's a scene in where I talk about all the different high schools, where I kind of go through all the different high schools, and the number of people who felt the need to point out that I left their high school out. Some of them I left out because I forgot. Some of them I left out because there's a point where you say, I can go, this is a show unto itself.
Well, but it's because you went to Jesuit and you're so much better than everyone else.
Yeah, so much better than everybody else. Well, the saddest part is you can tell the audience, I walk a fine line between saying that and saying that we shouldn't say that.
Yeah.
But go back to you comment about your grandpa. I know the city really, really well. I spent a good 2 years driving around and helping my brother do weatherization, insulation, and quality control work. And so even though I knew it really well, I got a chance to really drive through it, to really learn it. But even this month, I've learned new things. Like, I only had an inkling about Louisa. Louisa is like the longest street in the world.
Yeah.
I tried an experiment one night. Let me just drive over to the Louisa exit and see how much quicker I can get down to the lower part of the 9th. The upper part of the 9th. It took me forever.
You got about 40 stop signs.
I mean, it's like unbelievable, and it's like it's a little bit frightening too. But you get out there and you're like, oh my God, this is like the wilderness out here. I mean,
if you're not,
they got a new Delgado out there. I mean, it's like that. It's like that. I'm like, what the hell did this?
If you're not learning something about town, you're not living in it.
No, because and that's the great thing about the roiling change here is the fact that somebody made a comment once that I love. That New Orleans is preservation by neglect. that we don't do anything about things and they stay there. So when people say that's historic, we got to keep that there. But it's like I don't think they wanted it there when it was there in the first place.
Yeah.
But the past is always not only still with us, it's always creeping back up. It's always kind of, like you fix the road, but the bad road comes back up. You build the facade in front of the building, and the facade falls away, and then the old building, which was always there, is still there. The past isn't always with us, it's always coming back.
So you and I were just so passionate about this topic that I wanted to talk about all your other shows coming up too, but we're not going to have time for that, I don't think. So they're going to have to get on your website,
which is the theater@stclaude.com.
Theater@stclaude.com.
You can spell it either way.
When you come here and get coffee, you always leave little flyers and that come grab coffee. I'll have all of his flyers for all of his shows. You've got a cool show coming up in October.
Justin Maxwell's written a wonderful play called Niagara Falls. So we're going to end the month with a one-night performance of Dracula. We're also going to be offering playwriting classes that I'm going to be announcing really soon, and those playwrights are going to be able to have their work done at the theater.
That's cool.
And I'm also going to bring back another one-person show of mine called The Island of Dr. Fitzmorris, which you'll love. It's about Halloween in New Orleans in the 1970s.
Oh, that's going to be great. That's going to be great. It's so, and for me, I'm not a theater guy. I mean, I've gone to plays. I've gone to a lot of your plays now, but I'm not like, it's so funny when I go to the theater, like I see like the same faces, like seeing your plays and stuff. There's like a theater group of people in town.
Well, you also come on opening nights, though. I mean,
okay.
you're a friend of the theater, too.
Yeah, I guess
so. You're
so.
seeing a lot of the people who come, who make a real investment.
Well, because what I was saying was, if you've never been to a play before, come out. And the fun thing about me, every time I go see a play, and listen, I'm not a play guy. I don't understand all your play lingo. When I sit there and I see a play, right, and the lights come up and it's dark and the lights come up, I think, God, look at the definition on this television set. It's so real because their people are real. People are real. It's like 4K, but like actual real life. It's so crisp and clean because it's real people on stage. I know I'm being stupid, but
no, you're not. It's really funny because I tell you how weird things have gotten. We were at home. My girlfriend and I are big video game fans. We love them for the movie quality of them. And the more HD comes in, the stranger it is for me to watch TV because I'm going like, oh my God, that
looks like a play.
That looks closer and closer to watching a play a lot of the time. And it's like a part of me actually wants to go back to looking like film.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to touch. I can't. Can I reach into there? I mean, it's amazing.
The play really, it just brings you. It's so alive.
But it worries me though. It worries me because the more and more live the TV gets, I wonder if audiences are going to start trying. Audiences are more and more treating live theater the way they would treat television by leaning over and talking. I don't know if that's a bad thing. Because that doesn't really, that's actually back to the future because if you look at the way theater used to be a long time ago, people didn't care. They'd talk, they'd throw things. It was hold my attention or don't, up to you. It's always amazing. When a show's good, it's amazing how quiet people can get when something's really good.
Yeah, and your work's phenomenal. We didn't even talk about Lesbian Bookie, which you wrote and directed. And the Times Picayune said it was like, was it Times Picayune? Your reviews,
and the Advocate, all of them.
The reviews were glowing. They were like, "This is the best play you're going to see in New Orleans this year." And I'm like, "Dang, look at Jim go here," And of course, I see you come get coffee all the time.
It does. It's really funny too. I've actually learned a lot about business. I've also learned that you should always do a show during the 4th of July weekend. I learned that. It's like because people forget in New Orleans we're a destination city. So that I'm tell theater artists right now, give away a secret. As long as you are out of the perimeter of Essence Festival where the traffic is bad, as long as you kind of respect the boundaries of what's going on at Essence Festival, you can do almost any kind of live production you want. If it's any sort of quality, people are looking for ways to go inside and be air conditioned in the summer. Especially when it's only an hour and it's
now
good.
That the Wax Museum's gone, I got to go to the theater.
I don't know what. I wish the Wax Museum actually hadn't gone. That was one of my favorite things.
Me too.
I do a whole show about the Wax Museum.
I had to bring my son. I had to bring him. I had to hurry up and bring him before it got closed. He was a total infant, but I'm like, he's got to come see this. I got to bring him.
Come down and taken over the Wax Museum
and just do it.
Fixed it right because it's a great idea, isn't it? And it's one of the best ways to introduce kids to New Orleans history.
It was phenomenal.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah, terrible.
Heartbreaking.
Okay, that was a terrible way to end the show. Go see the show. Go see the Be a New Orleanian. K-Day, Katrina Day.
3 o'clock in the afternoon at Le Petit Theater, and I think they have a great restaurant next door in Tableau, which has an amazing brunch.
We do their hot teas there, so you get Coast Roast hot tea.
Fantastic.
You get the hot tea. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jeff.
Appreciate it. Take care.